All righty, welcome everyone. I see a few people are still trickling in, but we're going to go ahead and get started since this is being recorded. I'm Joe Amditas. I'm Assistant Director of Products and Events at the Center for Cooperative Media at Montclair State. I'm excited about today's workshop. We got somebody who really knows their stuff today to lead us through this session. Before we start, I'll give you a quick overview of what to expect for this session and a little bit of information about how you can interact with our speaker and the rest of the attendees. So this is a Zoom meeting, super basic. Everybody's basically familiar with this. Please post your questions, your comments and everything in the chat. You can also introduce yourself in the chat. Introduce yourself to the folks. Tell us where you're at, where you work, where you're coming from, where you're joining us today. I'll be sure to keep an eye on the chat, and so will Jackson Gosnell, our instructor for today. And I'll make sure that when we get to the Q&A portion after Jackson gives us an overview of his operation, that we get to everybody in a timely manner. Super casual today, not very formal. Just listen up. Jackson's going to talk. He's going to share some stuff, and then we're going to go back and forth, get some one-on-one questions and everything. And then we're going to just talk about how we do short form informational video content. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring Jackson up. Jackson, if you want to unmute, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you and your work, how you came into this, and take it away.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this. I want to bring up my slides because that kind of helps illustrate my story here with what I do. So a little bit of information about me. I started out, here's our agenda, by the way. I started out getting interested in news when I was very young. I was 12 years old. I'd done a story with a reporter who was from my market, and I figured out how some scam callers were operating their scam. I wanted to warn elderly people, so I called my local news station and I told them, hey, I got these scammers to admit how everything works to me, and I want to make people aware. So at the age of 12, with my parents accompanying me, I talked to a reporter and was on the 10 o'clock news that night. I found the news operation very interesting, and I wanted to learn as much about it as I could. So I thought to myself at that point, this is definitely something to think about. And as I got older, I developed my connections within the news business. And so I would connect with anybody I could just to learn anything that I could learn. And so then a few years later, at the age of 16, 17, I started, and it's coincidentally that it's about phone calls again, but I figured out how to make money from telemarketers. And so I decided that I should share that with everyone. I was able to leverage what I knew about the press in order to get some press about that. So you may have seen me before and just not realize that this is what I do now. I was on Inside Edition, I was on the early Today Show, I was on Daily Mail TV, and a host of local stations throughout the country talking about how you could make money from robocallers. And what I learned from that was that I was very fascinated by how the media worked. I thought it was so cool that I could be here in Greenville sitting at home, and people all over the country could watch me, whether that be from a national newscast or a local newscast. And so I decided it was something I wanted to get involved with, but I'm just a high school student, right? I can't go on to a network newscast and become a reporter or an anchor. So I thought, what can I do? And social media came to mind. So I started making social media videos about the news, beginning at the local level. So I interviewed, you can see here, the Greenville County Sheriff candidates. That's here in my hometown. I interviewed the Democrat and the Republican who were running, and I posted those interviews, and several people watched. So people liked what I was doing. So I wanted to do more of it. So then I got a little more involved in politics. So you'll see there's Kayleigh McEnany. Her and I had a chat. She's former White House press secretary. And then I went for stars of movies, series, TV, etc. I interviewed Carol Baskin. I asked her if she killed her husband because during the coronavirus, everyone thought she did, and we all wanted to know. So I took the question straight to her, and I post these videos on social media, obviously. And so then I started making TikToks and short form content, which is what I do today. This is a little snapshot of what I've got going on right now. These are some recent videos. And I've had to learn how to experiment with it because you'll notice a wide range of views represented in terms of the numbers. 2.7 million views on one video, but as low as 5,000 on another. So you have to just kind of experiment with what works. And so that brings me to where I am today, continuing to make these short form videos. And you might ask, well, why do you make short form content? I make short form content because that's where people are. People want to be informed or inspired quickly. They are on social media. They're not watching TV as much as they used to be. So this is a really pivotal way of reaching people who have short attention spans, which is like everybody. Also, it saves them time because they get information quickly, and they can just get the key points without having to watch a 30-minute video or newscast, getting every element of a case or a situation. Also, I found that it's pretty easy to grow on social media. When people start watching you, they share it with their friends, more people watch it, and you get more followers and more people tune in. And social media companies embrace these short form videos. So I know that there's heavy emphasis on TikTok here, but also Instagram and Facebook Reels are wildly popular, and now YouTube Shorts as well. So we'll touch on those a little bit also. So that is why I make short form content. And the gear that goes into that is pretty minimalistic, believe it or not. I use just a regular ring light that you might see on Amazon. I use this exact ring light. It's off to my left where I'll be making videos with it later. So good lighting is key for your videos. So if you're planning on making news content, people want to see somebody, and so having proper lighting is a critical part of that. Also, crisp audio. The audio from our phones is great, but it's not ultra great. You want to really enhance that audio and make sure that people are able to understand what you have to say and understand it clearly. So I use this Rode Wireless Go 2 kit. I'm actually wearing it right now. And the great thing about this is it works great with smartphones, but it also works good with cameras if you're using cameras and you want to capture some audio with that. There is a cable that I put in here because this cable is really essential if you want to use it with an iPhone. It makes it sound incredible. Otherwise, it doesn't sound as great. So, and by the way, I will be giving you a link to a doc that I've made, a Google document with links to all of these things that I'm going to be talking about. So no need to take notes or anything. So I also use a host of apps that help me with this. So I want to talk about the apps that I use, because technology, of course, is ever evolving. And if there's technology that can make your workflows simpler, you might as well take advantage of it. And that is what I tried to do. I use these two apps. You might be familiar with one, less familiar with another because it is newer. I use Super Creator and InShot. So I want to tell you a little bit about Super Creator, which is an app that I use all the time. Super Creator has the ability to create scripts within the app and then record, and it uses a green screen filter to display the asset that you put in, whether that be a picture or video. It puts it up behind you so that your audience has a visual. And then the text comes on your screen so that it's a teleprompter style format, and that way you're not looking down at lines or having to memorize exactly what to say. So with this, you can write your own scripts, just put them in there and upload the asset. Or they have this really awesome feature where if your newsroom has done a web story that you want to make a video about, or if there is a web story available about something you want to make a video about, you can actually paste that link into this app, and using AI technology, it spits out a script for you with photos and videos already put in there. And if you want to change it up, you can edit this and then ultimately make a video out of it, as I just done the other day with Alec Baldwin behind me talking about the charges in that case. So Super Creator is really helpful for getting stuff out quick, but making it look great as well. So just a little word of advice there. I also use InShot, and you may be familiar with InShot. I use it for one specific purpose, and that's it. The specific purpose is a lot of newsrooms and people, they want to post video, but they don't necessarily want to be in it, or they want to post video of something else that somebody else has taken, and they just want to redistribute that video. So most of the time that is in landscape, and obviously the short form stuff on TikTok and elsewhere is portrait. So what do you do in that situation? Well, if you post a video, this is an example of a video here. Just if you take it as is, there's going to be these black bars on top and bottom that viewers really don't like. It's unused space that could be filled with something more relevant than just blank space. So with InShot, you can either zoom all the way in to fill up that entire screen, as I've done in this example, or you might think, oh, that's too blurry. So you might not want to do that. Well, if not, you can use the landscape of the video, but just have these blurs on the top and the bottom so that it fills the space, but it's not just dead black space. So I recommend InShot for that. I use it all the time, and it really works well for what I want it to do. Some tips and tricks that you might want to be aware of. There's a lot to know about social media, and there's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but these are the best things that I can tell you. Be consistent with your video posting and make a schedule. Viewers like to know what to expect. They want to know, am I going to see 5 videos from this account per week? Am I going to see 7? Am I going to see more? Viewers want to know your schedule. They like consistency, and it kind of gets them in a routine, as you are as well. And it really works well for both of you. So be consistent and make a schedule, but also know who your audience is. Each of these social media tools allow you to see a demographic. For example, where these people are watching from. Are they in the United States? Are they in Canada? Are they elsewhere? What age group they are. Are they 18 to 25? Are they 30 to 45? That is essential in terms of knowing what to post, because if your audience is a bunch of 16 to 18-year-olds, as is mine, they could care less about politics, though they should. They could care less about politics. They want to know what's happening with their favorite reality star or musician that they listen to. So understanding who you're giving information to is just really important in terms of knowing what kind of videos to make so that it resonates with people. You need to understand what people are talking about. If you are going to post a video about something boring that nobody cares about, then nobody's going to watch it. That sounds like common sense, but I see it a lot, and I've helped newsrooms and other places, and they just want to cram out something, and it's not as good as what it should be. So you really need to know what people are talking about. For example, I'm in South Carolina. The Murdaugh murderers are wildly popular, not only here, but throughout the country. Jury selection is actually underway today in that trial, and people are talking about it. You go on TikTok, my For You page, it's people with all these theories about how everything happened, why it happened. So if you can make a video that resonates with people of something that they're already talking about, they're more likely to watch it than something they don't care about. You should find stories that directly impact people. If I'm directly impacted by what you're talking about, I'm more likely to watch it. Whereas if it only impacts people over here that are not me, then it sounds selfish to say, but I may not care. And that's just the reality of it. People don't care if it doesn't affect them. If it inspires them, if it makes them want to do something, or if it makes them angry, that's also really good in terms of view rates, because people are more likely to watch something than watch something that impacts them or that makes them mad or inspires them to do something. So we kind of play off of their anger a little bit, because, it really speaks to them. Also, show your face. I know that there may be some people here who you don't want to be on the camera in terms of making short form video for news. You just want to take video from a scene and just put it out there. And while that approach works great, people like to see people. They don't want to just see a name behind an account like the XYZ Times. They want to see a person and somebody. So if you show your face, you will have success, because they can understand who you are and begin to trust you. And also, showing your personality is important too. That's because people like to be able to resonate with you. They want to relate to what you have to say. They want to, just feel like there's a connection there, whether it's over the internet or not. These people feel like, in many cases, they come up to me out in public and say they feel like they know me. And we've never spoken before. It's just because my personality shines through in my videos. if I think a criminal is stupid and I'm making a video about something that a stupid criminal has done, then I'm going to say that they're stupid in the video, just because it shows my personality. And then the last one I think is a really important one. Maybe you want to circle it if you're looking at something, then you've written it down. But going live is really important for success, because I know with TikTok specifically, they love live, they embrace it. And if you go live, you're showing to them that you're using all the tools at your disposal to make the viewer experience the best, and they will reward you for that. You can get gifts on live that, I don't know, could maybe go to whatever kind of a fund you're working on for improving your videos. But going live is really important and is certainly rewarded by these social media companies. They are very excited to really promote live, and also going live with others can be really helpful also. If, for example, you're talking about a story and you want to bring in an expert and they have a TikTok account or an Instagram account, go live together with them so that viewers don't have to go elsewhere. They can just watch it all in one place. So it's really important. Also, there are resources available that can kind of supercharge your growth on social media. So the resources that are available to you are as follows. The TikTok Creator Portal. That one is filled with information about how to grow on TikTok, and I highly recommend you check that out. Again, I'll be giving you a guide, a link to a guide at the end that has links to all these external places. But the Creator Portal on TikTok has best practices. It has advice, how to do things. If you have an account issue, for example, you don't know how to attach your Instagram account or your YouTube, you can go in that Creator Portal and figure out pretty much anything. So check out the Creator Portal. And then for Instagram, @creators on Instagram is an account dedicated to creators with best practices and tips, and also networking opportunities to meet others who do the same thing, who could potentially help you out and help you supercharge your growth on the platform. There's also a creator website for Instagram in addition to the account. And TikTok has an account, by the way, also TikTok Creators on TikTok. Both of these social media companies have these accounts that are for creators, and then they have external websites that offer best practices and advice. So Instagram has that. YouTube is a space that is just beginning with short form content lately with YouTube Shorts, which can really get seen by wide audiences. I have a handful of subscribers on YouTube, but my videos are getting 45,000 views. And that's just because YouTube is really pushing YouTube Shorts. So if you can incorporate that into your content and workflow, I would highly encourage you to work on YouTube Shorts. And there's a guide available for that as well. And then Facebook Reels, I find that they actually pay better than anywhere else. I have the least number of followers on Facebook, but they pay me the most out of anybody, which is really ironic. But Facebook has a Reels guide as well, and you can tie that in with your Instagram account so that when you post a Reel on Instagram, it automatically goes to Facebook without you having to do any additional work, which is a huge time saver. It's very, very helpful and saves me a lot of time personally. So I know that tends to work for me. If you want to find me, by the way, you have questions for me, you can message me. This was just kind of a broad overview of everything, but these are my social media platforms and my website where you can connect with me. And then I believe, Joe, that's all I have for now, but I will be taking questions for anyone who's interested in asking questions about anything I've discussed or maybe more. There's awesome. There's a URL I just put up for a guide that I put together with a host of information. So maybe we just want to leave that for a second while you prepare your questions.
Yeah, you know what? The share is stopped. So if you want to post that in the chat, that URL in the chat. And again, we'll share all this with folks who are who have registered on Eventbrite. We'll share that with everybody after this. We do have one question in the chat already. Kimberly wants to know if Instagram Live is worth it anymore. Are they worthwhile?
Yeah, I noticed that it really depends on the time of day. So if you're able to use the analytics that Instagram provides to determine when your audience is most active, then I think it's worthwhile. I specifically go live on TikTok a lot just because there's a flood of people that pour in there, whereas I may get 12 on Instagram, so I understand what you're asking. But knowing when your audience is active from those analytics really helps to make Instagram worthwhile. Otherwise, I can understand how maybe it's not.
I also understand that on TikTok, you need at least 10,000 followers, or at least 1,000 followers, I think, or something, in order to go live as an account. So if you're just getting started, if you have a smaller account, you haven't built that up yet, that's going to be a barrier. Roman
Yes, that is an important note.
Roman wants to know how can I increase my TikTok views? That's a pretty broad question. And Gwen wants to know about New Jersey centric recommendations for folks who are doing this well on a regular basis. We have been collecting a few of those. So I will send that link over to everybody as well in the follow-up email with the recording and the transcript and everything. But there are a few folks who are doing that, doing it well here. Hudson Reporter is just coming to mind as one of them. Or HUD Post, I should say, not Hudson Reporter. HUD Post is pretty good. As far as increasing your TikTok views, I skipped over that really quickly because it's pretty broad, but did you want to touch on that at all and some of the general tactics you use?
Yeah, I will. So Roman, great question, and thanks for tuning in. I actually know Roman, so appreciate you being here. But I wanted to just give you some advice in that regard. Quality over quantity, for sure. So posting relevant videos that have impact in your audience, as I mentioned, can help with views, but also posting consistently is rewarded to increase your view count. And there's a host of debate about whether hashtags and sounds and other things can increase your views, but I would just say being consistent and posting quality content is the best way. It doesn't hurt to use hashtags because sometimes that can help a little bit. But I wouldn't worry about the sounds. If you go on YouTube and type this question in, people will really say, oh, you should put a trending sound on the video, like a song that people are dancing to, and then just mute the song so that it's just attached to the video, but is not really playing in it. I don't believe in that. I think that's ridiculous. So I would just recommend quality and consistency.
Okay, Mariela wants to know, how well does TikTok work for news in languages other than English? Do you know anything about the viability of that platform for communities that don't speak English?
I only speak English, so I wouldn't know about other languages, but I do know that other countries who do speak other languages are using TikTok for the purpose of delivering news. So I would assume that everything, all the advice and so forth is pretty much the same, just in other languages. So I've seen other people do it and be successful with it. So it's certainly possible.
I've got a question or a topic I want to discuss with you, because as somebody who has made videos for TikTok and is always exploring this, the ByteDance or native app that the editing app that TikTok uses is called CapCut. And I just wanted to know if you had any experience with it, because it is the single best mobile video editing app, and it has a desktop version, the single best free mobile video editing app that I've ever come across, especially having it be native to and embedded in the app of TikTok itself. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your editing process, some of the apps you've used there that aren't as automated. And then after that, we'll get to Gwen's question about organizing a team to help with creating and developing the strategy and calendars for editorial content.
I have not used CapCut very much. I've used it a little bit, but I typically just use the native in-app editing methods. So if I need to cut something, I'll just put it in TikTok and cut it there, or using just the basic app on my phone to trim video, etc. So I don't really use a ton of video editing softwares. I just use these apps that help me, because most of the time I'm pressed for time and I need to get something out in just a few minutes, but make sure that it looks good as well. And I find that those apps really help with that. So I haven't used CapCut, but it is something that I'm learning more and more about. I'm actually in a class that's promoting the use of that. So I'll be learning about that more soon.
Okay, yeah. And now, Gwen wants to know if you have any tips on organizing a team to help with like the creative and development stuff in terms of editorial calendars and strategies. Do you work totally alone, or do you have a team that helps you?
I actually work totally alone right now. I'm a college student, so I don't have a team. I have people who constantly send me news stories that they think I should make a video about, so that helps. Having a calendar, though, can be good if it's a slow news day and maybe you have some ideas ahead of time, like you say, okay, tomorrow is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We don't have any breaking news happening today, so we should post a video about that. I think just keeping in mind important dates and things that are coming up can be relevant to making videos about if you want to, have something to put out on a day where otherwise you wouldn't.
I want to do I want to do a little impromptu poll here, and if anybody on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 5 in the chat, one being no experience whatsoever, and 5 being like I'm on the app every day. How familiar are you all about with TikTok, either as a consumer or a producer or a creator? And just post 1 through 5 in the chat, so we can just see a general sense of the room here in terms of the skill level and familiarity. And feel free to add like 1 comma, lurker, or 1 comma creator, or whatever. Let's see. Yeah, we got some 5s. We got a 3. We got
I
a
don't
couple
know,
of 1s.
Joe, I don't know if there's any broadcast media in here, but I've worked with newsrooms to help them optimize their TikTok content. And a lot of newsrooms will have reporters, as they're working out in the field on a story, they'll have them record a tease to just be like, hey, coming up tonight on our channel, we're going to be talking about X, Y, and Z. And they will either point people to their newscast, or after it airs, they'll do something similar and put a link to the web story in their TikTok bio. So that's also an important note.
Yeah, that's that kind of stuff. I'd be interested to hear more about your thoughts on the sort of pre-promo strategies. Not even, I mean, just the individual stories that you're going to be covering or the videos that you're going to be publishing, but general sort of marketing and promotional content to engage with your listeners, your viewers, directly, maybe not about a specific topical incident, but just to generally sort of increase that community engagement element.
Yeah, I think listening to your audience is a really important part of all of this. So I encourage them to send me direct messages or to email me. And I have my email on my website in a contact form, so that if somebody's watching and they think you should look into this or you should talk about this, they can let me know. And I can do that. And while I'm on live, we do a little bit of that because it's a more formal setting when I'm making videos and posting the videos, whereas the live is more of an informal, we're just having a conversation with each other and figuring out what we like, what we have in common, what we want to talk about. So, so being accessible to your audience is also important.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. Like when you go live or you do these lives, is it just a sort of meet and greet, general information, hang out with me thing, or do you tend to go live around a particular story? And if you do go live around a particular story, how much research and information do you have on hand to make sure that you can provide accurate and contextual information to people who ask questions? And then B, what else do you do? And Mariela is in the chat also wanting to know, what else do you do to make your lives more engaging as opposed to just, you sitting in a chair talking to a screen?
Sure. Yes, I go live typically around different stories. I do both that you mentioned. If I see a video that's really taking off, for example, when we learned of the tragic passing of Twitch, that video was really successful on my TikTok account, and I wanted to tap into that. So I went live and we discussed the specifics of that case and everything we knew about it, just because the video was wildly popular and everyone loved Twitch. And so it's something that people could relate to. And while the video was taking off, I went live to get everybody updated with even more information than what the video I put out had in it. And so I do go live around particular stories, and a lot of research goes into that. I would take maybe an hour or so beforehand to watch various reports and read various articles so that I can have the most knowledge possible. As for making live engaging, I ask questions a lot of the viewers. Where are you watching from? Because my audience is not just a local audience. My audience is from all over the country. And you may have goals for a local audience or a national audience, but with TikTok, that For You page is not just drilled down to your own community. So I think posting videos that are relevant to a lot of people is more helpful. And certainly your local stories are important too, to a local audience. So tagging the location when you post the video can help. But But yeah, I would really encourage, stories that impact everybody and asking people where they're from, what they're interested in, why they're here. I've even asked people at times, why do you follow me? Just to see what their idea of what I should be doing is.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. So please, everybody post your questions in chat, or if, since we don't have a lot of them right now, if you want, you can use the raise hand function or feature at the bottom under the reactions tab. It'll raise your hand like this, and then we can, you can have you turn on your audio or video and ask a question out loud. Totally up to you. While we're waiting for those to come in, I wanted to get a little bit more into the tech workflow and stuff. I know you said you use those two apps to basically do a lot of the, maybe not the production, but at least a lot of the logistics and stuff. But I'm wondering if there's any more like workflow tips that you can share, or just like an overview of what your process looks like in a little more detail.
Sure. So in the evenings, which is typically when I make my videos, because my audience knows that I'm going to be posting around 7, 8 o'clock most weeknights. So around a few hours before that, around the evening, I will go to various news websites and I'll see what kind of their trending stories are. And see if those trending stories align with my audience. My audience is mostly young adults. So anywhere from 18 to 24 is a majority of people who watch me. I also have a majority of women, shockingly. I have about, it is a majority, but a slight majority. I have about 60% women, 40% men who watch me according to the TikTok analytics. And I see if those trending stories that I'm reading about would be relevant to somebody of that age group, of that gender, and see kind of, what would be relevant to them. And so then I take that story, particularly if it's a story, for example, I posted about Alec Baldwin and the involuntary manslaughter charges. I felt like that would really resonate with people because everyone knows who he is. And then I will begin to create a script. I'll write out a script of what I want to hit in that video. I typically like to hit the key points. I want to keep the video around 30 seconds or less, because even 30 seconds is a stretch to a lot of people. They're pressed for time and they want to get on with their night, evening, day, whatever. So I try to make the video short, but as informative as possible with the key points and kind of an introduction and a catchy beginning, because making sure that the beginning is catchy is important, because if you don't hook them in the first 3 seconds, I've heard that they're likely to fall off.
That's interesting. A really good question from Gwen. Do you have thoughts on how to handle corrections or updates as topics emerge and change?
Yeah, so whenever you post a TikTok, you cannot edit the caption, which is really annoying. You can edit like closed captioning that they have on there, but you cannot edit the actual caption of the video. With Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, you can, so it's a bit easier. But for TikTok, I just comment. I put in the comments the latest updates. And this is really annoying, but TikTok used to have the ability to pin comments. So if there was a significant update to a story, if I didn't have time to make another video about it, I would pin the comment, but they removed the ability to pin comments now. So you just have to comment, and that's what I do. I just comment to update those stories or change the caption on the relevant platform so that it's more accurate, and for the time that the people are watching it is more accurate.
So do you ever film corrections and post updates if it's something that you can't get outside of that? I want to talk about comments next, because comments are a sort of overlooked but crucial part of the experience of the app, in any app lately these days. But I want to just finish this point on the corrections. Is there ever been cases where you do realize, oh man, I got that wrong, and now that video is up and maybe not everybody's going to read the comment? Do you ever issue corrections or updates like that?
I have deleted videos in the past and done a second version because sometimes my grammar is a bit off, and you may have even caught on that as I was talking, but sometimes my grammar is not always correct, and I'll have very smart friends who text me and are like, this is wrong, Jackson, you need to fix this. And so I'll go delete the video and I will reshoot it just so that it can be as accurate as possible. So I do that, yes.
Okay. Real quick, Roman wants to know, when did you start doing TikTok?
I started TikTok in about 2019. I didn't take it seriously until 2020 when everyone else started watching it. And then I thought, this is a great opportunity, especially how they're really pushing videos. It was easy, very easy to grow during the coronavirus, where everybody was at home. It was very easy to grow on TikTok. So I kind of embraced that and went for it in 2020. But I've had TikTok for a while. I just didn't use it as seriously as I do now.
Two things. One, the comments. I said this earlier, but I really don't think people appreciate and understand how crucial the comments are. I would say equally, I mean, if not equally important as the video itself is the engagement and stuff that's going on in the comments. Whereas typically the, on a Facebook, a story you post on Facebook, an article you post on Facebook, you just sort of at most, I think a lot of organizations will like post maybe one or two things in the comments as additional information, or possibly engage or maybe moderate, the comments. But the comment experience is different on TikTok, and increasingly so elsewhere, as it becomes, the thing you open up before the video even ends, to read and see how people are responding. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that. And then Julie's got a question as well.
Sure. Comments are really tricky because as a news person or a news organization, you want to be unbiased. And most everything that I talk about has one side or another. And you don't want to give your, point of view or your own opinion about the story. I mean, if somebody does something stupid, then that's one thing to call it stupid, but you don't want to take sides. And in the comments, people take sides. So responding to those comments can be very tricky because you can't do so in a fair and unbiased way. So I use comments more for questions, where if somebody comments a question about a story, I may make a video out of their question, or I can just reply and answer their question. But comments can be very tricky, as I mentioned, because you want to keep integrity in mind, but also it's a key part of engagement.
Interesting. Roman wants to know, where do you find, the best breaking news tweets as they happen? Like, what is your source? Where do you source these stories from outside of, I know you said a few people in the community and, your followers will send you stories, but where do you go typically when you're looking to see what happened today or what's happening in the news?
I look at extreme conservative websites and extreme liberal democratic websites. I want to see what both extremes are talking about that day, if I'm looking for a political story at least. But sometimes not just political stories, other stories, even if it has nothing to do with politics, can somehow have a political swing. So I look at both extremes. And then I look at outlets that I consider to be very fair, like News Nation. And I'll give you some examples. I use ABC News, I use CBS, I use Fox. I use all the big names, and then I also use some magazines, just various magazines I picked up on over the years that happen to post really interesting stuff. And the New York Post always has big talker stories on their Facebook page. And I actually go to Facebook more than their website to see what people are talking about, because you can see in real time kind of what the reactions are, what the engagement's like on a story, just based upon what they put on their Facebook account. So I find that going to Facebook pages and seeing what people are talking about is really helpful as well.
So you said this twice now, that the anger thing and the extreme thing. Do you worry at all that that's doing less of like an information public service and more of just like contributing to the problem of polarization?
Yes and no. I think that, well, for our sake, viewers are really interested in topics that inspire or anger them, and they're certainly going to watch. They're going to have opinions, which is going to drive up that video. But at the same rate, to your point, it's not really helping the problem unless you can shed some light in areas that are otherwise not talked about, or if there's an element to a piece where you can draw in something, I guess, good, then certainly that would help. But I've never really thought about the latter half of your question, but it's something to consider for sure.
So like when you acknowledge that like the anger they're responding to, does that mean that you're taking that and you're trying to find ways to introduce nuance or complexity, or to, maybe if the anger is, necessary. I'm not saying anger is not a valid emotion or response to a news story, are you taking steps to make sure that your content channels that anger into something productive, or sheds light on something that redirects that anger, or
Yeah,
addresses
so
it, or is it just driving it, using that to drive views and watches?
I think both, to your point, which may not be great, but is the reality of it. For example, with political stories, people are often really angry at political stories because they take sides, either left or right. And finding what is truthful about it is really important, because if somebody's mad about something that didn't even happen, which is a lot of times the case just because of how lies are spread on social media, if people are mad that something happened and it didn't, I think addressing all the rumors and saying, wait a minute, folks, this actually is not proven, it did not happen, can kind of resolve that issue, but also allow viewers to trust you because they know that they can get accurate information from you, opposed to just Joe Blow who's out posting a video.
Any other questions before we wrap here? We got about 10 minutes left, and I want to just make sure everybody had a chance. Any comments, any questions? You can just unmute yourself if you want.
Yeah, I would love to hear from you guys. I mean, I like your comments, but hearing from you would be fun too.
All righty. All right, if nobody's got any other questions, we will be sending out a recording of this, as well as auto transcript, the links and resources Jackson's going to send me that he shared with us during his presentation. Jackson, if you wouldn't mind sharing your slides too, I'm sure people would like to go through that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, thank you so much for everybody who joined. And if anybody has additional questions or wants to reach out to Jackson, I'll put his work email in the email as well. So thank you all for attending, and have a good week.
All right, thank you guys.
Bye-bye.